Alright guys, so welcome back. So the last part of chapter 11 talks a little bit about apoptosis. And remember that apoptosis, we're talking about programmed or controlled cell death. And this particular end result for a cell has to be very carefully regulated. All right, we don't want cells to just go off and sort of self-destruct unless there's a reason for it. And the reverse is true. If we need that cell to be dealt with, to be getting rid of, I need to have a way to do that as well. So it's really this integrated multi-step pathway that is highly regulated by hormonal control, usually in multicellular organisms. And it's really where we take that cell, it gets chopped up, gets packaged into vesicles so that they don't get destroyed, or don't destroy, I should say, other cells, and we have scavenger cells that come in and get rid of them. All right. And apoptosis can get triggered in a couple of different pathways. It can be from a neighboring cell where we have an extracellular signaling molecule that's signaling the death of that particular cell when it attaches to a receptor. A lot of times it gets triggered during cell division as part of the checkpoints in the cell division pathway when there's damage in your nucleus to the DNA molecules and we can't fix it. So we want to destroy it before we go through mitosis so that we're not creating a bunch of mutated cells which could ultimately end up being attributed to cancers. Some other reasons we may go through programmed cell death is if there's some major protein misfolding going on in our endoplasmic reticulum. So we're creating all of these proteins that are not folding properly, and probably that's going to get backtracked to maybe some damage in our DNA, or something is happening in the cellular environment that's not allowing those bonds that are supposed to be happening from actually happening appropriately. And so apoptosis, when it doesn't work the way it's supposed to, is connected to quite a few diseases. Cancers we've already talked about, but there's also some connections to things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, where you get those buildups of plaques in the brain that should be getting removed and aren't, and that ends up causing some signaling pathways to not work the way they're supposed to, hence some of the symptoms, the dementia, and that kind of stuff that's associated with those brain diseases. Apoptosis also plays a really huge role in early embryonic development. One of the best examples is to talk a little bit about C. elegans, these little organisms, and we utilize the turning on and turning off of apoptotic events through different signaling molecules, which are getting controlled by your Hox genes. Remember those from gene expression. And the turning on and turning off, or slowing down or speeding up of different apoptotic events ends up allowing us to produce these different proteases, enzymes that are designed to cut up proteins. So we get an initial creation of, say, a hand that looks like this, but by signaling and regulating these pathways, we end up being able to eat away at some of the proteins that are here in this webbing, and that's where we can get those individual digits in those little organisms. All right, and same things going on, similar pathways in the creation of our hands. All right, having webbing in your hands happens to be dominant. Most of us don't have that, however, because we have a recessive form of certain Hox genes, that those get turned on and off at the proper time to help speed up apoptosis here in our webbing, and we get rid of that to have our actual digits.